good.
Just White Horse Road. Cause there again, that is, there's something all these in there.
Was that Franklin?
Well, we get on the White Horse Road.
Okay, Corey, you're up.
All right, first issue is the Blackfoot contract. I notified them of what we wanted to do on that. Specifically, proceed, but try to proceed in potentially in a bifurcated manner to save money on the contracts that we would have to get out of, and also to try and get an earlier date on knowing the results of their engineering study. So they told me they'd get back to me. They've got back to me in saying that they're working on it. They haven't gotten back to me on an answer, but there's two things on that. One is, generally they were shooting for March 1st, but they were gonna find out if in fact they could do it sooner, the mid-February timeline. They haven't told me yet the answer to that. The second issue was whether delaying the phone rather than the internet. And the phone is a big part of the contract. So one of the things they were looking at is whether there were any discounts available or ways that they could basically give us a discount because of contracts that we would be getting out of in order to make this whole work. And I got an email from their guy on Friday saying that he had connected with the person above him who is working on it, and they would give me an answer sometime this week. So far as of today, they haven't given me an answer. I've been in court all morning, so when I checked my email this morning, I didn't have anything from them. So where we are right now is generally, they understand we want to move forward, and they also are gonna give me the final version of the contract, which I don't have yet. So it's stepping forward, but it's not done deal yet. Second issue, White Horse Road. So we haven't really made any progress on this. I'm aware, I think there are other documents out there. I think I referenced those in the meeting last time. And just between, I think my schedule, the court that I had last week, I intended to kind of meet with Nicole, and I haven't gotten that done. So I don't think Nicole has the documents, but I think between us, we can identify who, if anyone has the documents, we think we know who has them. And I just need to pursue that person, and they're not at this point publicly involved in this, and I think they'd rather not be. So I don't want to throw their names out there, but they may have the historical documents that are going to point us in the right direction on that. On whether there's an easement from 1980 or an easement earlier. Those were the two things I was looking at. And then as far as actually that whole historical record between 1913 and 1980, that just takes somebody probably a fair amount of digging through our county records to see if either there's a declaration, or if there's a abandonment, or if there's anything like that in there. I don't know. I guess I don't want to give you a recommendation of who to volunteer for that right now, but unless we can find something really concrete in that era of documents in the 70s and 80s, I think someone's going to have to potentially spend. I mean, it's time well spent if we can look through a lot of years of records to see if there is anything particular to this road. But it is also, Ann knows this better than I do, it's kind of a painstaking process, isn't it? So I'm just saying, at some point, if we don't find the answer we need in those documents from the late 70s and 80s, then we're gonna have to do some digging for, a 60-year period there to see if there is something else declaring whether a public easement, right-of-way, county road dedication. There are county road dedications that have been lost in time. If you're, I just became familiar with this history. We were once part of Jefferson County. Jefferson County created a lot of roads, and then when we became a separate county and those things were transferred over, I mean, some of those were transferred over no problem, and some of those were transferred over and kind of forgotten. The other thing that happened in the late 1800s is people were really ambitious as to the development that was going to happen, and so there were a lot of little like town sites and roads that were dedicated and things like that. you know, especially on the west side and the Elkhorns. And then over time, you know, what are some of the town sites? There's
Hogham, Cheatham.
what's that?
There's Bedford, Hogham, Cheatham.
Yeah,
There's, I think
there's,
there's about 10 of them up there. Robin? Yeah.
And then nothing ever happened with those. So the counties in those eras, whether us or Jefferson, were dedicating roads, and then kind of, you know, the use of them went away. I'm trying to think of that one, there's a place called Hassel, but there's old records of roads being adopted. It's possible, my guess is Whitehorse is not of that era. Whitehorse is gonna be of the 20th century era, but it takes a little time to dig that in. So, give me and Nicole a little more time, I think we'll talk right now so that we aren't trying to chase each other down over the next week. And I will see what these roads are. The other thing I would say is, I don't know if there's any, do you guys have like collections of documents, like from '94, when John Flynn addressed this issue? Would there have been exhibits or documents that were stored as part of the commissioner's archives or something like that that we could look through? Because it'd be helpful to know what he's relying on back then. We have the minutes from the meeting. We don't have a description of what other documents or information he was relying on. You guys know, do you have like little archives?
Well, those files behind you are full. I'd be happy to look through those and what I have from those years
Okay.
and see what I can find. I can't tell you off the top of my head what I
Right.
have, but I'll look through there and get you what we have.
Okay.
So-
And then the last question that, last time I posed was, do we know people along the road? Would they just be opposed to a petition to just, us to the commission, to asking to declare it a county road?
I'm not gonna mention any names, but I will tell you that there's a number of people who live on both Valley and Whitehorse. Mostly Whitehorse, since we're talking about it, who are afraid of some of their neighbors and would not be comfortable signing a petition or coming here to a commission meeting because of that fear element that they have.
So they would want to be on the leading edge of it, but if someone else is on the leading edge,
Terry, well, again, I'm not gonna mention any names, a gentleman actually hired an attorney to try and get a petition done just a couple of years ago.
okay,
And they didn't even wanna do it that way.
okay.
So I'm not sure that we're gonna get people to come forward and say, this is a good idea, but one-on-one, they would tell you it's high time it happened.
So that kind of indicates that there's somebody along the road that would not be in favor of it. Is that a fair statement?
Nagels have been here publicly and said they're not, Tim
Yeah.
Ravendall's been here publicly and said he's not.
Okay.
I understand from past meetings that they want to be paid by the county for their part of the road, or what they believe is their part of the road.
And then what about on Valley? Valley's north of Whitehorse?
Just one north, and it's just in horrible shape. The problem is same as Whitehorse, a lot of those subdivisions went in off of that road before we had regulations regarding the road. Now they've got not even a 2-track, I mean, it's horrible, the size of the potholes in that road. We're going to hurt our ambulance or a sheriff's vehicle going to an emergency down that road. This benefits the county financially to take care of it. So it's not really the same story, but it's parallel.
Okay.
And we did have some folks here from Valley Road who want the same thing and watching what we were gonna do with Whitehorse. So they're not necessarily as fearful as the people on Whitehorse.
Okay. I wonder if the Valley easements have that same language of, you know, basically people up that road who have an easement have to participate in the maintenance. Since it's not county, because Valley's not a county road, is it?
No.
No public, same as Whitehorse, but no, back then I don't think we had those, did we? That's why there's an issue now.
What year did the Valley one get developed? Would you?
I think that was late 70s, early 80s, that the bulk of Valley, at the far end there was developed.
Okay.
How many are in there?
Oh gosh, 20 or greater,
Yeah.
20 blocks or greater.
The other option is to by eminent domain, but that's could be expensive.
I don't think we have to go there I think from Jenny's presentation that she gave this commission, what, a month or two ago? If her information is just half right, we don't even have to talk about eminent domain. All we need to do is take a public road, make it a county road, and we're done. And if we have to go to district court, I'm good with that. But I don't think we need to talk about eminent domain. I wouldn't be for that.
Okay, well, I don't know that I've seen all of Jenny's documents.
And I don't have them, she did pull them from the vault upstairs, she did your research upstairs, but she's got them at her office at home, I don't have her
Okay,
copies of her whole file.
let's just do it, should we set up a meeting with her?
I think it's a good idea.
There's another person we need to meet with. I think we can get most of this stuff.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. And then, like I said, if there's anything in the archives that John had or that Tom had, that'd be great.
I'll find
Chances
everything
are,
I
they're
can.
closer in time to it, they're more likely to have that information, so. All right,
So I have a question on Longhorn. Any advancement made there that you can share with us?
I have this list of civil things, and I just moved Longhorn up to number 5 and said, get with Nicole and work on Longhorn. So it's gone from 7 to 5 because I closed things out. Fortunately, I just I haven't been able to do anything on it yet, or I haven't done anything on it yet, so let's add that to our list of things to meet on.
Are you guys gonna meet after this meeting?
Yeah.
Can you meet on Longhorn too?
Yeah,
We're going on a year of that one.
Well, and it sets a precedent, I think, for future development.
That's my worry, yeah. If we let him, we have to let everybody. And then our regulations have no teeth. Did you want this back, Mike, to address that?
Oh, yeah, I got one here. Here's another one, Corey. This is Bernie Jones, Mountain View Vista subdivision.
Mountain View Vistas.
Essentially, him and Centerburg have a private road that they put in that they're allowing those people to use for emergency use only, but now those people are saying that they're gonna start driving it so they can get a prescriptive easement on the road.
Where is this? This is just down in Wheeling area?
Correct. And Bernie's private road is in Jefferson County, and the development is in Broadwater.
Yeah, I can look at it, I hadn't heard of this. You know all the history on it?
Most of it.
Okay. We're gonna look at it.
And redistricting. I'd like to get that done.
So, redistricting, I went back and looked at that Supreme Court case, and for an error or incompletion in a district, you can make corrections in the map inside the 6-month window.
This isn't for an error.
Well, we have that section in District 3 that's not complete on the old legal description.
That's my opinion too, sorry, I don't mean to butt in, but I'm just saying that's my opinion on reading the map, so I would hate for you to base something on my opinion, but.
There's a section in District 3 that doesn't appear to have a legal description that actually completes the line.
Okay, so what you're saying is we could call this an error so that we can just go ahead and adopt the redistricting simply.
not the changes within, not the things that change the boundaries within the town of Townsend. As far as I'm aware, that's the only place where there were changes. Is that accurate?
So,
But the
so
correction.
every year there's a census in the zeros, so 0, 2000, 2010, 2020. And then we have to, in the 14s or the 4s, 04, 14, 24, redistrict to make sure that the numbers all jive. So that's what we tried to do. In late 2014, I think it was, I think the first meeting was here, and there was another one in Three Forks. Nicole did all this work, brought it to the commission. It got stalled, we were in the middle of changing commissioners, and it was just a time where a lot wasn't getting done.
Okay.
And that was one of the things, one no vote was the status quo, because there was only 2 of us, and it just didn't get done. So now we're at the beginning of 2018, and we haven't done our work from 2014. If we don't do it fairly soon, we're gonna be in a position where we can't do it again, and we're gonna essentially be doing nothing until what, the next census, 2024?
24 is when.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'd like to get this done as soon as possible. When we started it, it was at the right time. Nicole's done everything right. It's just this commission hasn't completed her work. So is there a way we can go ahead and not, we don't have to address the error, I mean, it's addressed in the redistricting you did in 14. Just go ahead and ask the judges to approve it, even though we're a couple years late, and get it done. It's not gonna affect this next election cycle. It's for the next one after that. If we need to postpone again, we can do the next one after that. It doesn't matter, but at some point, we have to have a line in the sand where we actually do our work, and we say this is when it takes effect.
Right,
And if we keep putting it off, we don't get anywhere but spinning our
Right.
wheels some more.
right. So you can do that now, and it would be effective for the 2020 election, which is, I think, what you had mentioned.
Right,
The issue with that, my only concern with that is that then it doesn't, number one, complete that line and correct the error for the election cycle that we're in right now. So for the 2018 election, there's a chunk, which we all know is supposed to be in District 3, that the line doesn't correctly say that. So, I don't know if it matters, I mean, if we get down to where it's literally it's a recount, or we're talking about a few votes, and then there's a big lawsuit over, I don't think that's likely to happen, but you never know. But if you adopt something now, and you say this is for the 2020 election, I think it's gonna cause confusion now, because we're in the middle of an election. What I would recommend you do is make a map now that corrects the error we know about for the 2018 election, and then as soon as it's over, as soon as November, whatever day it is done, you can adopt one for the 2020 election with the changes in the line that I understand would be a result of the census. So that's my recommendation.
I would take your recommendation and Annie up, got the wrong terminology. I'm okay with March. We have people right now who are signing up to run for office. The law says that as a commissioner, you have to live in a district a period of time before, I think it's the election, don't quote me on this. If we wait until November, a person who's planning ahead to run doesn't know where they need to be living. They don't know what district they're in. If we wait until March, it's after people have already put in to run in a particular district. There should be no confusion at that time, and it should be crystal clear that obviously this isn't for this election because the period to sign up to run is over.
Well, I mean, that's a
I
good
can see
point.
the
You're
confusion now.
still dealing with the issue of voters, right? I guess it doesn't matter because everyone in the county votes. So it's, if you're talking about changes to the boundary that would affect the 2020 election, as far as someone saying, I don't know where I'm supposed to live, if a person, how do I do this?
Let's do it parallel.
If a boundary moves, and that boundary move puts a candidate in a district, but they were already a resident there, then that 2 years doesn't count against them. Does that make sense? But if somebody moves from District 1 to District 2, or 2 to 1, because I guess 1's the one up in 2020, they move within that 2 years, and that residence is unaffected by the boundary change, then they're not within the 2 years. Make sense? But if
So let me
someone,
clarify, because I'm not sure it does. So a person who lives on Elm Street, for example, today, the line gets moved to across the street, so they're no longer in District 1, for example. They want to run in District 1, you're saying they're okay to be running in District 1 because the line moved on them?
no, if they are now, by virtue of the line change in District 2, they
Mhm.
can run in District 2, they can't run in District 1. Even though they weren't.
Right, okay.
Yeah, even though they weren't a resident of District 2 for 2 years, they were resident, their residence didn't change, the line changed, and by virtue of the line change, put them in a different district. They still meet
Okay.
the eligibility requirements for that
Sure,
commissioner for that district. But if they went ahead and moved across a line and moved into a different district, and the line change never negated that, then that's still, that 2-year requirement still exists for them to be a resident of whatever district they're gonna run from.
so that kind of solidifies that if we continue to push this, kick this can down the road, that person is precluded from actually following a goal that they may have set for themselves. So, if you want, we could do this, this can either be done as one step or it can be done as two. If you wanna do two, that's fine. How about in March, we do them in parallel at the same time? One is we correct the error of that line that's already in District 3, so no one's disenfranchised. It's just a line within the district, so it's not major, but it is an error or a gap that we can fix. And at the same time, we go ahead in March and take care of the redistricting, as we should have done a few years ago.
So,
Is that agreeable?
yeah, I would recommend that you make that correction now during the filing period on the District 3. But you certainly can do what you're suggesting, which is, once the filing period is ended, the commission does a redistricting and says, this won't affect the 2018 election, but for 2020 purposes, this is what the districts will look like. And that does give people 2 years and, 6 months notice as far as what that will look like in 2020. You could certainly do that. Actually, and I think it makes sense, because then otherwise you're constantly chasing this 2-year cycle when it's less than 2 years, right? And if that
You're never
matters,
gonna be on top of it.
right, if
never.
it matters to somebody, great. If it doesn't matter, then they'll just, they'll live where they live. So you could do that. But the correction, I would think, it would make sense to do it now, since we're in the filing period now.
My only hesitation is this is our third conversation on redistricting. And my worry is, if we just take care of the error, this is gonna get kicked down the can, or this can's gonna get kicked down the road even further, and we're never gonna get our homework done. I wanna take care of it all and get it done. Tired of it. That would be my only thought is, let's just do it at one time so that we get it done. Even with doing it now, when people come in to file, they're still looking at the map. The fact that we have done something that takes place in 2020 isn't gonna matter to them. Because Doug's office is not gonna say, this is the map for 2020, they're gonna say this is the map for today. So it shouldn't make any difference to somebody running at this point.
Well, so you could do them both now, as long as it's very crystal clear. This is the current map for this cycle. This one will not be affected
We
in the next.
don't put out a map for 2020 until after the election.
Could do that. Commission approves the new boundaries, approves the new map, sends it to the court, approves it, but we don't publish it until after the 2018 election's done. So we don't have people trying to figure out where they are.
And then we take care of that gap now.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Can I ask a question, just for my work, so I know what I'm doing? So do you want me to create a map now with that error that I perceive, the perceived error where it leaves out all of that acreage on the east side of the county? Give you a new description that just closes that gap. And I will call that the 2018 Commissioner District Boundaries to correct an error.
Yeah, and I would say there's a couple of roads that aren't quite named correctly.
Yeah, there's a few on that, you're right,
And
on the
so
west
then
side
when we
too.
file this with the court, we can make it clear to them what we're asking for. And there, like I said, there's a Supreme Court case of the exact same thing happening, where it was an error done within the 6-month period, and the court allowed it. So we can cite that that case decision, here's what we're asking for approval just for this correction. And then secondly, here's if the redistricting that would take effect for the 2020 election were well outside the 6-month period pursuant to the census that we just, for whatever reason, never got done.
So I'm going to make a corrected map, leaving the town boundaries intact as they are today, not what I'm proposing. Correct, and I'm going to draw the parallels between the description, because that's really what matters, not so much the picture as the description of the boundaries. I'll draw the parallels of what we're trying to amend, correct?
And then I think you would still have to do a second map of what would be
And then,
the future effective.
and so the map that I presented a month ago, I believe, that you agreed upon, I think 6 months ago maybe, and I will call that the 2020 Commissioner District Boundaries. I'll just put that title on there so it's very clear. Is that correct?
Sounds good to me,
Okay.
yeah, thank
You guys
you.
should probably vote on this.
I move that we proceed as just described by Nicole.
Now, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to correct the boundary corrections with the 2018 map and make the 2020 map for new districts with new commissioners' boundaries. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? You're the same.
Would
Motion
you-
carries.
Could you put this on for next Monday? For me to present the maps, or does it even need to come to you? For approval, for this corrected map and corrected description?
It doesn't need to, but it probably should
Okay.
for extra clarity for the public.
All right, can you
Yeah.
put me on for next Monday?
Okay.
It's gonna be a colorful agenda because we're revising.
She's already on.
Oh, is it, yeah, oh, that's right, it's already gone out, hasn't
But we
it?
already have 3 revisions, I think. This is just one more.
Yeah, it's not gonna make, we'll just have to do a new one.
I'm gonna be
Right.
gone the first half of February,
So you're
so
on
I
it.
wanna get as much of this done.
You're on at 10:30, 10:15, and we'll just make this one, or 10:30, 11:15, we'll just make this one 11:30.
Oh, I have a 10:32, okay.
What's that?
I didn't know I had a 10:30 on there, okay.
Joe smiles.
Didn't know about that one. Thank you. So 10:30, 11:15, and then 11:30.
Yep.
Perfect, okay.
Are we allowed to see that one from?
I don't think so.
Thurston's?
I don't think you're allowed to see his plan because it's a subdivision, and you are not privy to any of that ex parte communication before it comes to you from me for a proposed subdivision, if that's what he wants to talk about. I don't know what he's on there for.
He's on there, I think, for that road. to
Road
his-
matters in townships, 9 north range, 1 west.
I would defer to Corey for that final say on that, but I would think that's okay. As long as you stop him from discussing any matters of his potential development that you know nothing about, or should know nothing about. If it's the road issue only, that's perfectly fine, but
Okay.
Just an
Beyond that.
email argument?
Yeah.
I did not read every one of those.
I'm sorry to bombard you, I saw where this was going, so everyone is involved in the conversation,
Wait.
whether you want to be or not.
That might be a good one, Corey, if you can be here to make sure that we stop the meeting at the point that we may need to.
We can back up. Was there a second to that motion?
Yeah, Franklin seconded.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the
I
one we're
just-
still,
I'm just asking.
we already voted that one, right?
Wasn't any vote on it, was there?
Yeah.
Was there?
Did we vote?
For the
Yeah.
boundaries, yes.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you be there on Monday? At 10:30? I really want you to be here too. Can I bribe you?
No.
10:30.
Oh, and then one other thing, Corey, are you okay with, February 5th at 4 o'clock union negotiations?
No, I'll be gone that day.
You're
Is that a
gone.
Monday? What day of the week is that? Well, the second's a
Friday.
Friday.
second's
That's
a
a Monday.
Friday.
I think it is a Monday.
I'm supposed to be gone.
It's a Monday,
Yeah, I'm supposed to be gone that day. At 4 o'clock?
yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, I'll make it work. February 5th. Okay, I'll make it work. I'll move something. I should be all right.
Okay.
Everybody else look good with that?
What's that?
Is everybody else good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a meeting also that day, so I'll be juggling, but I think I can make it work.
Anybody else got anything for Corey?
Only thing, I'd ask if maybe if you contact this Bernie and let him know your work on it, so he has an idea
Yeah.
that we addressed it.
Bernie on the subdivision that you sent me?
On,
On that road easement
Right.
and that, yeah, maybe just, if you just, when I give him a call, say you just got it and you're working on it, so he knows it, don't you think, Mike, that we addressed the situation? Haven't got an answer, but it's addressed.
Okay. I'll email it. I got an email and a phone over here. Actually, I don't have a phone. I don't have an email. It just says Bernie Jones. I'll call him. Okay.
That's the only thing I have.
One more thing on that. So I met with Debbie Kelly and we're implementing my National Guard pay issue. So we're implementing that. And so this pay period was the first one that she pulled that money out. I just gotta keep track of it because we have a system to keep track of it, but we're just now implementing it, so it's gonna take a little tracking to make sure we don't do it wrong. But one of the things that I think would make sense, and requesting you guys to agree with that, is that income that I'm deferring, that we put that into the Barris litigation fund. There's a couple things I'm doing as I'm seeking other sources of revenue to help pay for that. And I can get through the exhaustive list if you want, but this would, over the course of the next year, I don't know the exact amount of money, but it's gonna be, I don't know, it could be $10,000. So I would like to do that, and that will help a lot come July, when we're in the next budget cycle. I think it'll reduce the amount of stress on our budget if we're going into, at that point, likely a clear date for a trial, which we don't have a set date yet. But I think it'll likely give us a lot more predictability of those costs, because by then I think I'll know the costs for my experts for that trial. So that's my recommendation, what to do with it.
We need a motion.
No, I mean, it's, number one, it's not on the agenda, but number two, I think that should be pretty easy to accommodate. However, we can't just make a decision without evaluating the budgets. So I think what we should do is actually, what I've asked Mike already, and you were here, Franklin, for a working meeting on the budget.
Okay.
That couldn't be something that we, I think at this point, put in our back pocket and know that we're trying to work towards. But I don't think we can just shoot from the hip and say, okay, without an evaluation of where we're at and what the budget looks like.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this is money you would have already spent. This was money that was budgeted for my salary, so it's not like you don't have this money. It's money you're either spending or you're not spending on this, whatever, this purpose or a different purpose. But the money would have, in everyone's calculation, would have been spent.
And I appreciate that, I agree with you, and like I said, I don't see any reason why we can't. However, when it comes to the budget, I think it's a slippery slope for us to get into the habit of just shooting from the hip and saying okay and having to vote without having done any evaluation. We also have a mess with the general fund this year because of everything we tried to accommodate. So we're gonna have to do some evaluation, see where we're at, and then make that informed decision, not just it feels good today, so we're just gonna say yes.
So your question is put on hold, in other words, then? Is that what it is?
Well, the money just was withheld this last pay period, so I would like to know where it's gonna be put.
And as I said, the answer is that just on hold then, or?
Well, any money that we receive goes first to the general fund and then is disseminated from there. So if that's your question, it'll go into the general fund and that's where it'll stay for now until we determine what to do with it. And that's part of our budgeting process that we go through. So, yeah.
So when we have a working meeting with Debbie Kelly on the 29th, so we'll figure out just exactly what we gotta do to get that transferred into that fund.
Okay.
And if you have to go, Michelle's here to take minutes for you.
Okay. Shouldn't be much left. Thank you.
January 29th, right?
Yep. At 1 o'clock.
Now, a working meeting, we can't make any decisions, but there's no reason in a working meeting that we couldn't say, this is our plan to. This would be something we wouldn't necessarily need to do a budget amendment for, but it's something we could put on the slate to actually incorporate it into the new budget that would start
Okay.
July 1st. And like Corey said, this just started, this is gonna be a bi-weekly thing. So it's something that we need some numbers from Debbie, we need to see where those other budgets are, who's saving their 10%, who's not, what revenue has come in, what hasn't. So there's a lot of things we need to look at so that we can make sure that we're making a responsible decision.
Okay.
And that's not just Corey's, that's everybody's.
When did you have her the time on that with Debbie?
1 o'clock.
The other thing that should be included in that is a full budget review, since we're at the 6-month mark.
You got anything else, Corey?
Not now. We'll have more as we go.
Okay.
All right, Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody has anything else?
No,
Okay, we'll close this meeting for a closed door hearing, so you'll have to go, thanks for coming
No,
down.
it's okay.
I'll come up and
What
give you,
time do you have?
I'll give you the adjournment time when we get
Okay.
done.
I'll go ahead and get the camera.